The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Talkin' Buds Leaf Show. You know, after they went down 3-0, I had it in my head that if and when they got eliminated, we were going to come on here and just rip into everyone and be like, blow it up, scorched earth, whatever. And now after that, I'm sitting here and I'm just emotionally deflated, defeated. I feel like we should have a disclaimer on this episode that says this is like immediately after watching them lose in overtime and have their season end. So this is going to be an emotional episode. We're going to be back after everybody does their end of season press conferences or whatever, and with a more rational sort of overall outlook on the franchise. But right now I'm just feeling, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I don't know. How do you feel?
I'm bored. I'm just bored. Like, I honestly, I think I just hit my peak after the Game 3 loss, and I kind of watched Game 4 and 5 without any emotion, really. It just really, for some reason, that Game 3 just murdered me. Just murdered my attitude, murdered my positivity. It just, I watched Game 4 with no emotion, and then tonight when they tied it up, it kind of got me back into it a little bit, but, yeah, they end up losing. It is what it is, and there's a lot to think about here. There's a lot that we could be emotional about and fire off hot takes, but there's also, like what you just said, probably need to take some time and really think about what's best for this franchise going forward.
I feel like before we go any further, we should discuss the goal that was called back. There were clips on Twitter that clearly show it going over the goal line. It's as soon as you saw the replays on the broadcast, though, like we looked at each other and said, like, they're not. This is getting called back, and it's because if you've watched enough NHL hockey, you kind of know how this works. And it got called back, and it is what it is. And we're not going to spend too much time talking about it because that's just the way things go in the playoffs, and you got to overcome it. And
yeah, I think the only thing I would say about that is as a league that just reacts to everything and throws a new rule in, like there's got to be some sort of tech coming in that where if the camera angle can't grab a puck, like you got to figure out if that thing crossed the line, because it's pretty wild that like how many of those replays have you seen all year, and you can tell if it's a goal or not. Like that one, like you literally had no idea. Like that far angle they show it. I can't see that it's in the net. How do we not know if it's in the net or not? So I think at some point, like robo-umps, there's got to be some sort of tech that's going to tell you if that thing crossed the goal line completely.
Yeah, some sort of puck tracking technology is needed. Like some sort of, I don't know. Like put a camera on the, I don't know, under the ice, I don't know. But you got to do something that notifies NHL headquarters or whatever the hell it's called that it's gone over the goal line even though you can't see it. But anyways, it is what it is. Listen, I like their effort tonight. I thought they worked really hard. I thought like there were stretches of the game where I thought Florida kind of dominated, but like overall I like their effort. I like their compete. But listen, like if you take the heartbreak out of it at the end of the day, they just got beaten 5 games by a team that a lot of people going into this series felt were like the Leafs were the superior team. A lot of people felt that way going into this. And like at the end of the day, we know now watching that is not true. The Florida Panthers are a hell of a hockey team, and their forecheck is relentless, and they have guys that work their ass off and like real gamers. And so all the respect in the world to the Florida Panthers, and they deserve, honestly, like they deserve to be going on to the East Final to play the Carolina Hurricanes. I think as a Leaf fan, though, it's like you're kind of sitting here and you're just like, why did it take you guys 3 games to get your shit together? Like, why did we have efforts, like especially in Game 3, that were just like pathetic efforts? Like, why did it take so long? And that's what I'm feeling right now. It's like just that kind of frustration.
I thought they, like, I think if you look at this series overall, other than game 3, I thought they played a lot better and showed a lot more possession time and offensive zone time against the Panthers than they did against the Lightning. But if you just really look at this series, it's the Panthers had better goaltending. Like, the Leafs didn't score more than 2 goals in any of the games. And Florida can cash when they want, when they get the opportunity, and they did. And that's what they do. And they're a physical team. They're a forechecking machine. Yeah, like, I think the Leafs just got outscored and out goaltended, and then they had one game that was just awful. So, like, that's the story of the series.
Can I give you my emotional feel? Like, the thing I'm feeling the most emotional about at this point in time. Your superstar, your franchise player, the guy who's going to command $14 million at the end of next season. 0 goals in the series. That's not good enough. Like, that's nowhere near good enough. And there's people who are going to be watching this that are going, oh, but Robbie was great 2 ways and a lot of hits and, like, defensively he was sound. It's like, yes, I'm not disagreeing with any of that. But this guy's paid to be in the conversation with a Connor McDavid, a Leon Draisaitl, a freaking Joe Pavelski. And he just, like, I just didn't think he was effective. Offensively, he was nowhere close to a scoring threat, especially tonight. And it's just not good enough. It's really, like, you pay this guy in these moments to lift you up and get you over the hump, and he was nothing close to a threat tonight.
No, he didn't. I mean, I don't care. Like, he just didn't have any goals. Like, what else can you say other than that? Like, if you're want to be a top guy in this league, how many times have we had this conversation? A million. You got to produce. Like, at some point, the 2-way effort is not good enough. Like, you got to produce. You have to. Or even that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Some people can make the argument that he played well, but it's just like you gotta produce. You have to
score
be more
goals,
effective,
dude.
man.
We pay you to score goals. Leon Draisaitl scores goals. Connor McDavid scores goals. Like, you have to score. I'm not saying you need to go out and have a 4-game night. Like, those are like 1 in a million, but you didn't score a goal. You didn't bury your chances, dude. It's like, that's what you're paid to do. You're paid to get your team over the hump to the next level. It just wasn't good enough. And Marner got the big goal in game 4, and that's really great, but he was not good enough either in totality of this series. And let me tell you something. There's going to be a lot of people in this offseason that are going to be campaigning for change. Myself, I will be among them. But William Nylander does not deserve to be the one that gets shipped out of here. I know people circle him because he has the most movable contract, but that guy played his ass off in games 4 and 5.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
that's a whole different, like starting to pick and choose which players you want to leave that's just a whole other can of worms. Like, I got to take some time to really think about it. I don't know what they can do, what they're going to do. All I know is it starts at the top.
Okay,
general manager needs to be fired. The coach needs to be fired.
General manager. Oh, okay. Hold on. Whoa. So here, we're gonna get into it then. I was gonna wait till we got like later in the episode, but let's get into it now. Let's have some emotional spitballing right now. So we are heading in to what may be the most interesting offseason in this team's history, recent history at least. What do we think is gonna happen? You just said that you think the general manager should be fired. So if you are Ryan Furnish, the head of the MLSE board, Ryan Tannenbaum, what are you doing?
I'm trying to find the next guy who's going to have the vision for my organization. I'm going to bring him in, and I'm going to leave him alone. I'm going to trust him to do what he thinks is best for this franchise. That's what I'm going to do.
So you're firing Brendan Shanahan.
Brendan, I don't know what I said this last year. I don't know what Brendan Shanahan does. I just want a new vision for this hockey team. I want someone to come in here and make a bunch of new decisions. I don't want Kyle and whoever else is making decisions to be making the decisions this offseason. I've seen enough. I'm done. I like everybody. They seem like good guys. They tried their best, but it didn't work. And I just don't. I just want something new in here. I'm just over it. Like, I'm over it. How can you not be over it? I'm not even personally attacking anybody. It's just I'm ready for someone to come in and just be and just like have a vision for this team and execute it, whether it's right or wrong. I just don't want this regime to do it because I've seen enough. They've made all these decisions, that all the ways they've run this team, the stories about the players and running the coach over. Like, it's just, I'm done with it. I just need a whole new, I need some fresh air in here. Like, I'm done with, I don't want to talk about Kyle Dubas for another season. I don't want to talk about Sheldon Keefe for another season. I really don't.
Well, that speaks to the cultural discussion we were having a couple episodes ago. I mean, I don't know, man. I said this to you when we were watching the game. What they need to do is something like what the Florida Panthers won the President's Trophy last year and got swept in the second round by the Lightning and said, we need to change the DNA in our team. And in one trade, they did that. And that's something that the Leafs have to do. I'm not saying that that's just readily, like, you don't have Matthew Tkachuk's just available that you can go and get, but they literally changed the DNA of their franchise by bringing in that guy, and it gave them way more of an edge, and they were way feistier of a team. And I like, that's something they have to go and do.
They also have a coach who, near the end of the regular season, was coaching in the same building they played tonight, and absolutely reamed his whole team right in front of every camera across the country.
And how soft they were.
You know,
yes.
like, it's, I just see a bit of a different mentality over there in terms of, I don't see any entitlement over there. Like, I don't see any, you know, it just seems like a different culture to me. Like, it just does. Like, I don't care about the Matthew Tkachuk trade. I just see a different culture. Like, I just don't like.
Well, I think they learned.
I don't think it's as simple as, I don't think with Sheldon Keefe being behind the bench, I don't care who you bring in here, it's not going to work. Like,
well, I think they learned after last year that, and this is what this Leaf team is still learning, is that, like, you have to lay it on the line every single shift. And it took this core group 3 games after eliminating Tampa to get their heads around that. And that's what you saw from the Florida Panthers. It was just, like, every shift, we are going to lay it on the line. We know what we have to do. We have to be relentless on our forecheck. We have to be relentless on our back check. We have to capitalize on our chances. We have to have elite goaltending.
Yeah, the goaltending was a big factor for me.
Yes, Sergei Bobrovsky played like a 2-time Vezina winner.
Yeah, it ended up being a big factor in the end. I didn't want to give him too much credit off the start, but it did end up being a massive factor. Like, he was phenomenal throughout the entire series.
I'm really hesitant to let go Kyle Dubas, Ryan, because I'm very scared of the thought of bringing in one of the old boys.
Who cares? Like, why do you want to keep this guy around? I don't get it.
It's
like,
not, it's because I want someone who
gets run over every chance he gets.
Okay, hold on. Let me finish. I want someone who understands the modern game. You know who is the exact person I have in mind when I say that? Not that he's available. Rod Brind'Amour. Rod Brind'Amour is a modern NHL head coach who understands today's game and today's player.
But Rod
gets the
Brind'Amour
best out of his
played
guys.
in an era where it was you had to be as tough as they come to play in. Like,
yes, I know, but I don't want a retread. I don't want Berkey in here. I don't want Dale Talon in here. Like, I don't want that. Like, it's not what I want. But I agree. There needs to be a philosophical change in this organization.
And it can't be done until everything's eradicated. I'm sorry, it can't. Every single year, there's a new idea. Let's go get this guy at the deadline. Let's go get this guy at the deadline. But at the end of the day, it's the same shit. It's the same thing over. What's going to change next year? If everyone comes back, like, what are we going to do here? We're going to move Nylander for whoever? Like, I just don't think this group could ever do it. Like, we really need to evaluate our goals here. Are we trying to win a Stanley Cup, or are we trying to have great regular seasons? And it's the conversation that centers around this team every single day. And it's damn true. I just don't think that they just can't do it. I don't believe they could do it. They can't do it.
I think they can do it, but I think that the way this organized, like I talked about culture 2 episodes ago, and I think that's what's wrong here. And I think, like you mentioned, Paul Maurice reaming his team out towards the end of the race. We all saw it, and just them deciding like we are gonna get, and this Leaf team just can't get their head around. Like there's an intensity and there's a gear that this team can get to sometimes, but it's not willing to go there all the time. And to win a Stanley Cup, you need to be willing to go there all the time. You have to. And it's just, oh my God, man. Like, so I'm not opposed to bringing, to getting rid of everyone and bringing somebody new in, but it's just like,
yeah, but you're just married to the worst possible scenario. Like you're just, why are you thinking of Brian Burke? Brian Burke's not coming here.
I know.
Like,
I'm just scared of bringing in one of the old boys.
All these stupid stories about Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner complaining about not playing with each other. I'm sick of not saying anything, not criticizing them in the media because we don't want to hurt their feelings. It's embarrassing at this point, and I'm done with it. Like it's just. Like it's scorched earth for me. Like I'm over it. Like well, I'm over all this crap.
Yeah, at the end of the day, good. they just like the Florida Panthers just made easy work of the Leafs.
You know who the Florida Panthers top centerman is? Sam Bennett, for God's sakes. Like it really doesn't take a bunch of high paid skilled guys. What do you think
the Edmonton Oilers would do to the Edmonton Oilers would have eliminated the Florida Panthers in 5 games.
Yeah, because they're a very strange case, and where they do pay their top guys a lot of money, but they actually produce. Like it's just like really like if look at Florida's lineup, look at the names on there. Like that's not a star-studded cast, but guess what? It doesn't matter. That's what we've learned. It doesn't matter. And this team, the way they've drafted, the way they've put everything around these skilled type players since day one. Dubas has been here. It's been all about skill. Guess what? It doesn't work, man. It really doesn't. It's just finding some good hockey players and creating a culture, bringing in a good coach, and just not being pussies. Like it's just.
What do you say to the people that will hear you say that and go, no, that's not true. They just got goalied and they were unlucky and they were the better team for 4 of those 5 games.
Yeah, but
what do you say to those?
It's year 8, man. Like that's what I would say. It's year 8. Like this isn't year 2. It's year 8. Like the New Jersey Devils can go home and feel like the Leafs did when they lost to the Capitals in 2016. This is year 8. Like I've seen it. Like they're like, look at the elimination game record. Like it's just like, you know, like I've seen enough. I've seen enough. Like it's. I get that you people want to believe in them, and yeah, they're good hockey players. They put up good numbers, but like I'm done. I'm sorry.
I think a lot of people. I said this a couple episodes ago, and you agreed. I think a lot of people are scared of going back to fighting for a playoff spot and potentially not making the playoffs.
Well, if you look at the division, it's not getting any worse. It's getting better. So they're probably going to have to fight for a playoff spot, especially with guys getting older. Like I think John Tavares is going to be on his game next year. Who knows how many points he's going to get? Like,
I mean, you brought it up. If we're going to have a roster discussion here, like
is Morgan Riley going to go back to not having a great regular season? Like Mark Giordano's not getting any younger. Like who's playing goal next year? I don't know. Like there's, even if you bring these guys back, this division's getting a lot better. Like
we'll dive into this later on after like in a couple days after the exit interviews and whatnot. But if you're going to talk about cleaning up this roster, John Tavares is a huge issue. Like he's nowhere close to an $11 million hockey player, and you've got him on your books for 2 more years. And I just don't know what you're going to do. Like I know he got the big goal in Game 6 against Tampa, and it was a nice moment, and I was very happy for him. And I think the world of him as a guy. And I think below the hash marks in the offensive zone, he's still an elite hockey player. But
in the regular season.
But you throw him out there against a Florida Panthers team that can skate and forecheck like this, he's just... it's nowhere near good enough. And if he was making $5-6 million, you'd go, okay, like that's cool. He's your 3rd line centerman. He's playing a role, whatever. It's like he's getting paid $11 million, and he is Not even close to an $11 million hockey player. Not even close. So I don't know what you do with him. I honestly don't know.
And when you signed him, what was the idea? It was all about you have a window. You just drafted these players. They lost a couple tough series. We need an extra push. We have a window here where we can bring this guy in and try to capitalize. But guess what? The window is closing. It's almost closed. Like, how long is a winning window? It's not very long. Like, it's, it's just, I think they've missed their opportunity here. Like, I think they've had 8 years to make a run and they haven't done it.
Well, and they got
it's a long time.
And it's not, and this is why I always defend Kyle, because there were unforeseen circumstances that happened here with the pandemic and whatever. But at the same time, it's like every other team had to deal with that too.
The pandemic handed them the easiest cup run of all time, and they blew a 3-1 lead to the Montreal Canadiens. I'm done. There's no excuses. Like, there's none. Okay. Who they've drafted and developed? Like, nobody. Like, they've traded everybody away. No deadline trade has ever worked out, even though we all get excited for them. Like, Ryan O'Reilly, I know he's gimped, but he was pretty much a non-factor as well. So there goes another couple picks out the door, even though I'm not going to – it's not hindsight. I was very happy they made that deal, but it's just – I don't know, man. Like, I'm running out of excuses to make for this group, for this front office, for this team. I'm kind of done with excuses. Like, it's just like, this isn't working. The window's closing. We really got to think about what our next move is here. And I don't know if – like, maybe we could try to run it back. Like, all these guys are still under contract. Like, you can do that, but like,
there's so many moves. It's like there's so many things on the table. It's like, what do they do with the management group? What do they do with the head coach? What do they do with their star players? Your Austin Matthews, like I said earlier, he's going to ask for $14 million. The guy didn't score a goal. Didn't score a goal. Do you ever see a scenario where McDavid or Draisaitl don't score a goal in a playoff series? No. Mitch Marner, yes, scored a big goal in Game 3, but for the most part in these playoffs, perimeter player, shied away from physicality.
He's not effective.
Making regular season decisions, like making like silly passes in the offensive zone, between the legs, behind the back, through traffic that are like low percentage regular season plays. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what you do. It's like, first and foremost, like I said, we're going to see what the board's decision is on the management of this team. I find it very hard to believe that Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe get fired and Brendan Shanahan does not.
Why do I keep saying fired? Like, his contract's up.
Well, okay, fine. Well, then they tell him thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
But like, I find it very hard to believe that they let Kyle Dubas walk, they fire Sheldon Keefe, and they keep Brendan Shanahan. I find that, like, that is one scenario that I'll be extremely surprised by, is if Brendan Shanahan is still here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, he's kind of been the head of this whole thing. I don't care. Like, again, I just don't see his face. I don't think about him.
What do you think about the Austin Matthews thing? Like, what do you do with a guy like Austin Matthews?
I think Austin Matthews is going to play next year. I think they're not going to trade him because they're just not. And he's going to walk. That's honestly my 100% belief on what's going to happen in this situation.
Well, don't you think
They're going to be too scared of losing a quote-unquote franchise player, and they're gonna go all the way to the end with him and try to sign him. And they're either going to make a big mistake signing a guy for way too much money just to make us feel better that we have a number one center, or he's going to walk. Like, that's, I don't think that any move is being done. The amount of times you're going to hear next year about, well, you can't just let him walk for nothing, but guess what? They're going to. Like, it's going to be like, he's going to walk, and that's it. Like, I think that's honestly what's going to happen.
But don't you think if you're the management group, you're like doing the Matthew Tkachuk thing, and you're looking at him and going, are you going to re-sign here? And if he won't commit to you, then you say, all right, well, if you're not committing to us, then we have to look at moving you to get something for you.
This is exactly why I want a new general manager, because this general manager is not capable of doing that because he's too buddy-buddy with everybody. He loves them too much. He will believe to the end that he can sign him. That's why I want a new general manager. I don't think this guy is capable of making these decisions. I don't. As nice of a guy he is, I really root for him. I hope he goes somewhere else and does very well. I really like the guy. I would love to sit down, drink a beer with him, hear his honest opinion. But I just don't think these are the kind of decisions I'm talking about where I want somebody else making these decisions because I don't think he's capable of doing them. He's too attached to this group. He won't be able to do the hard thing.
Yeah, I can't say that I disagree with you. As much as I am a Kyle stan, I can't say that I disagree with you, man. I just
I mean, the annoying conversation is going to be like, well, we should move the Nylander because he's the most. Who knows what they're going to do with that?
Yeah.
Like, I think the Austin Matthews. Oh, don't forget, Willie's up too at the same time. So you got two guys ending contracts at the exact same time. So it's just.
Yeah,
that's
true.
another guy too. Like, he's like, do you trade him because he's like at least another team? Like, he could be a rental trade, but then are you giving up on your seat? Like, yeah, they're in a very tough decision because
dude, it's not. It's like
if you trade people, it's like you're showing everyone that you're not blowing it up, but you're taking a step back. But if you run it back and you don't move them and they don't re-sign here, then like that's a problem. Like it's kind of put up or shut up time for this franchise and this group. The window for these. My least favorite thing in the world, the core four, it's over. Like, it's time. Hard decisions are going to have to be made.
Yeah, for me, I'm fascinated to hear what happens. I'm guessing we won't hear anything over the weekend, and it'll be early next week, Monday, Tuesday, when we find out like what direction the board is going to go in. I have no idea what's going to happen, man. It's so funny because, like I said at the start of last episode, we sat and we said, you know what? If they get through the first round, that's all that matters. It's all that matters, and everything else is gravy. But it's like,
yeah, but then they go down 3-0.
Yeah,
and if we were going back to Florida right now, say it was 2-2 tonight, and the Leafs lose, and we're going back to Florida 3-2. Like, I'm going to be honest, I'm feeling completely different. It's just the fact they go down 2-0. They weren't that bad in those two games, and then they go out and they sucked ass in that third game, and you're down 3-0, and you know they're not coming back. I never thought for 1 second they were coming back and winning this series because just look at the odds, look at the probability, look how many times it's been done. It's very hard to do.
Well, and that's what I mean when I talk about cultures. It's like why did it? I thought that they in games 4 and 5 they started playing playoff hockey, and it's like, why did it take you 3 games? Why does it take you such a long time to get your head around the moment and where you are and what needs to be done? Like, why? Why?
I mean,
like, it's just like, there's no good reason for it. There's no good reason for it. And like I said, some idiot will watch us, will be watching us and go, well, it takes time to learn these things, and they've never been to the second round before. But to your point, it's like, this is 7 years of this.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, it's
they played a good goalie, but I'm sorry, that's not an excuse to.
You pay Austin Matthews $11.5 million to figure out the good goalie. I'm sorry. There's going to be people who are going to throw up about how much I'm referencing this. Connor McDavid would have found a way to score on Sergei Bobrovsky. Leon Draisaitl would have found a way to score a goal on Sergei Bobrovsky. Like,
I'm not basing all my 2024 decisions off a goalie who had a good series. Like, that excuse doesn't go very far with me. I'm going to be honest. Like, they just.
Last thing I'm going to say, and I think it will be Kyle's undoing, is I don't think Kyle's going to fire Sheldon Keefe, and I think Sheldon Keefe go. Like, I think Sheldon Keefe has been outcoached in every single playoff series he's ever been in. He we're literally in the second round of the playoffs. He does not know what his best lineup is yet. I like Sheldon as a guy. I think he's really funny. Like, when they were in that All or Nothing documentary, I thought he was very entertaining in that, and he seems like a good dude. But
yeah, that's the thing with all these guys. Like, I genuinely like them as human beings.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, when Babcock left, like, you're just like, hey, this guy's kind of an asshole. Yeah. Like, I actually really like all these guys. I think they're good dudes, but it's just what's the definition of insanity?
Over and over again, yeah.
The same thing someone throws at you every day, that little quote. And it's just like I'm kind of at that point.
Yeah, and this group needs, like, there's been way too many times over the last few years where this team has started slow or taken periods off or even taken full games off, and it's been on Sheldon Keefe's watch, and he has to go. And I don't think Kyle has it in him to do it. Like, there's stories already about Kyle going to, like, Pittsburgh and taking Sheldon Keefe with him. And so it's like, I don't know. Like, it's that if I'm sitting across the table from Kyle and I'm going, we don't want Sheldon, and he goes, well, I'm not firing Sheldon, it's like, okay, then goodbye. Like, because I just don't think Sheldon Keefe. I think he's had his time. I think he's been in, how many playoff series has he been in with this team? 1, 2, 3, 4 different playoff series.
Yeah, he started at Columbus.
He's been outcoached in all 4, 5 actually, if you count the 2 rounds this year. He's been outcoached in all 5 series he's been in with this team. I don't know.
Yeah, and that just leads to Kyle. I don't know if Kyle can make those decisions. He almost.
Yeah. I think
you know his of him evolving is probably that. It's just he's gonna learn a lot from what he did here. Whether I think if he moves on, he's gonna be very successful in his next endeavor because I think he's gonna learn a lot from his mistakes here. I just think he's too loyal to people. I don't know. Like, it's just. Like, bringing Sheldon Keefe to Pittsburgh would be a monumental mistake.
But you know what, Ryan? Here's what I'll say in defense of Sheldon Keefe. We're dumping on him, and we're dumping on Kyle. But at the end of the day, how many goals between Marner, Tavares, and Matthews in this series? 1.
Yeah.
Nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough. And I'm sorry. You can try and tell me that I'm an idiot all you want, but it's nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, I mean, again, this window is closing with this core group.
Yeah, you have to look at, I don't know what you do. Like, I don't know what you do, but you have to look at changing the DNA of this core. If there was ever a year that proved that your core is what drives you, it was this year, because you brought in character guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Nola Chari and Luke Shen, and guess what? You got bounced out of the second round by the Florida Panthers in 5 games, and you didn't show up for game 3, and it took you 3 games to get your head around playoff hockey again after just eliminating the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I don't know. Only time will tell.
I would say this is definitely our most calm elimination game loss.
Well, you know what, though? I think game 3
put
us in the mindset.
Yeah, it broke me. That was my,
We've been sitting on this, and I think a lot of the fan base has been sitting on this since Sunday night. We've been sitting here going, it's over. Like, if they won game 3, and like you said, if it was 2-2 and they just lost game 5 and we're going back to Florida facing, it'd be totally different. It'd be like what a series this has been.
Yeah, if it was an actual series, it's just like when you go down 3-0 and that third game is the game you need to get back in the series and you suck. Like, that was the end for me.
If I'm calling people into my office, that's the game I want answers. And it's not just Kyle and Sheldon. It's Austin. It's Mitch. It's Willie, it's John, it's everyone. It's like, you guys need to answer for this, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. We'll start thinking about next year and other things in a couple days.
Like I said,
minds are a little more clear.
I would imagine exit interviews are probably going to happen over the weekend, and like end of season press conferences are going to happen on Monday, I'm guessing. So we'll be back whenever that happens, and we'll discuss whatever decisions are made. I just have this feeling something's big's gonna happen. Yeah. So
like I'm thinking right now, like, there are some positives going into next year. We'll get into that the next time we come on. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. I think they do have a couple guys that they can look forward to, but it's just, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll save the positivity for another time, because right now we're just gonna sit and stew on another Maple Leaf playoff exit, this time in the second round. I just want to say thank you to everyone, all the new subscribers. We had a hell of a playoff run. Our subscribers went through the roof. We had so much engagement on our videos. Even, like I always say, if you want to comment and call us pigeons, that's fine. We love it. Really, really appreciate everyone coming along this journey with us. We're not going anywhere. Like I said, we'll be back periodically throughout the offseason, and we'll be back next season. So hit that like and subscribe button below. If you're listening to the audio version, do the same thing.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys in a couple of days. Like I said, I just have this feeling something big's going to happen. So strap in, everybody. We'll see you then.